While I am extremely proud of law enforcement's persistence and their unwavering dedication to identify this alleged offender and stop further abuse, this is chilling news. More broadly, it is with a heavy heart that the AFP and other law enforcement dedicate so much time and resources to prevent and take action against individuals who commit heinous crimes against children.
I stopped to look into the bottom of the fort when I saw Ashley on his hands and knees, bent over a girl who was sleeping on her back. His face was up against hers and his mouth was moving along her mouth.
These are the chilling words written by a 26-year-old childcare worker in an email to her boss in late 2021. They're being read by a voice actor.
I quickly walked inside, shocked by what had just happened. I spoke with a female staff member, explaining what I had seen. My thoughts at this point were to go back out and save the child.
The childcare worker is detailing an incident she witnessed at the Brisbane Uniting Church Childcare Centre where she worked. The colleague she refers to in the email is Ashley Paul Griffith, who was her boss at the time. Within hours, the report was escalated to the centre's management and the childcare regulators. The next day, it was referred to the Queensland Police Child Protection Unit, but that's as far as it went. The cops wrote it up as a suspected child harm incident because the officers couldn't determine if physical contact had been made from their interview with the 26-year-old educator.
When I first came, it did look like he was kissing her, but when I didn't actually see any contact. But I don't know. He was kind of pecking his lips and his head was kind of moving.
It was a critical and devastating error by Queensland Police. That incident in a wooden children's fort in Brisbane was one of hundreds of instances of child sexual abuse and rape allegedly perpetrated by Ashley Paul Griffith over 2 decades. He would spend the next 10 months working at other childcare centres across Queensland before he was arrested and charged in 2022.
To breaking news now, a 45-year-old Gold Coast man has been accused of more than 1,500 sex abuse offences against 91 children.
All the children allegedly offended against were prepubescent girls. We allege the 45-year-old man from the Gold Coast recorded all his alleged offending on his phone and cameras. The AFP is highly confident that all Australian children who were recorded in the alleged child abuse material have been identified. Some of the individuals identified in the alleged child abuse material are now aged over 18 years and have been informed.
Ashley Griffith put dozens of innocent children and their families through unimaginable pain. Their lives forever changed because of his vile crimes. He hid in plain sight, working in childcare for nearly 20 years. Now new details are emerging about how he managed to get away with it for so long.
This is where Australia's worst pedophile, Ashley Griffith, used to live during his horrific offending. We can't reveal the exact house because someone else lives here now. But what we can tell you are the disturbing details of what this vile predator used to do out the front while staring directly at a school playground.
He's a dangerous psychopathic pedophile.
By almost every measure of depravity, Ashley Paul Griffith is the worst child sex offender Australia has ever seen. 307 convictions, 28 of them rape, over a 19-year period. Most of his 60 victims were under the age of 5. Griffith himself used online bios at childcare centres to trick parents about how much he cared for their children.
I believe children thrive when they feel loved, supported and safe. I also love creating experiences that excite children and foster their curiosity and wonder.
After being cleared by police in 2021, he raped at least one more girl and sexually abused 3 others. The Queensland Police Service has defended its handling of the incident, saying all their procedures were followed. But today, the Australian's national crime correspondent, David Murray, is revealing it took police days to follow up the complaint.
So up until this point, we've had assurances from police that they've looked back over the investigations that were done into Griffith prior to his arrest. And there were two of those. One, there was a complaint about this Ford incident. Two, there was another complaint about a young girl who said she'd been touched on the privates by Ashley Griffith, her teacher.
For more than a decade, Ashley Paul Griffith used the front of childcare worker to perpetrate as one of Australia's worst pedophiles. Hundreds of sickening, disturbing allegations against dozens of young girls, and to each of them in court he uttered only one word: guilty. The plea little comfort for these parents who recall the harrowing moment police told them their daughter was a victim.
You get a, hey, could you identify this photo of your child? And this is what's happened to them.
The Gold Coast man admitted to 307 charges, including 190 counts of indecent treatment of a child under 12, 28 counts of rape and 67 counts of making child exploitation material. Committed over 14 years at daycare centres in Manly West, Mount Gravatt, Oxley, Wavell Heights, Bowen Hills, Everton Park and Enoggera. Some parents say complaints about his concerning behaviour fell on deaf ears.
How someone like that could get away with that for so long, just, it's hard to believe.
For families, it will be their first and only opportunity to stare down their child's abuser and describe the pain he has caused.
These documents really raise more questions about how this initial complaint with the Ford incident was handled. So we can see that the Uniting Church, which manages this childcare centre, went to regulators that night and they forwarded on the email that this witness had sent them immediately. The next day, a manager from the church calls police on the police link line and reports it as a non-urgent matter, and it's taken up by a sergeant at a local police station. For some reason, it doesn't appear to have gone straight to a child protection and investigation unit, although they were asked for advice. And what happens is that it seems to water down from what is written in the initial email the day earlier, where she describes seeing this mouth against mouth scenario, and she is clearly shocked by it. In her email to her manager, she also details how Griffith had isolated kids. This wasn't a one-off. She raises that, I think, very specifically to let her managers know that this is potentially not a one-off incident. But when it goes to police the next day, the logs that I've cited state that we'll file this as a child harm report and someone will get back to you in a couple of days.
When it comes to what is right and what is wrong, sometimes the line is blurry. Yolanda tried exposing Australia's worst pedophile. He was cleared to keep working in childcare centres and went on to abuse more kids. But when she blew the whistle, she was charged by police. The alleged crime, sharing confidential documents.
What are you guys doing here?
We're here to execute a search warrant. Everything will be explained to you once we go inside, okay?
Yolanda, a grandmother with no criminal history, was scared and confused as she was confronted by 4 detectives armed with guns and tasers outside her home. Officers from Task Force Argos usually lock up predators and rescue children from harm, but were instead on a mission to seize this whistleblower's devices after a complaint by her former employer, the Uniting Church.
Do you have any other questions at the moment?
No, we just appalled, that's all.
You what, sorry?
Appalled.
Appalled? Okay, I'm not sure why you're appalled.
You're knocking with all of you without any warning, like to the criminal.
Now, if you just think about this scenario, how often does a childcare worker come across something that disturbs them so much that they immediately tell a colleague, they report it in an email, they tell everyone up the chain that they're supposed to, that they're really alarmed by what they've seen. Yet there's no urgency from police for some reason after she talks to them. As far as we know, and I've checked over and over again, police did not search his phone. They did not search his home. It was a month later before they actually sat down at the Child Protection and Investigation Unit and talked to this witness. And the question is, well, what happened? Why wasn't this treated potentially more seriously than it was?
Yolanda is facing a charge of using a restricted computer without the consent of the Uniting Church to cause detriment.
Since that day, Yolanda's life has been on hold for 15 months, with a maximum sentence of 10 years jail hanging over her head.
Can you tell us why the Uniting Church cleared Ashley Griffith to come back to continue abusing little girls at the centre?
Grant Weaver is the Uniting Church's Executive Director of People, Culture and Learning. He was involved in managing the initial complaint about Ashley Griffith and Yolanda Baruki's eventual termination.
How do you feel about this case with a pedophile cleared but her on trial now for speaking out?
Also seen in those documents is advice from the Uniting Church's insurance expert about how staff should respond to inquiries from distraught parents.
Right at the time that the Uniting Church was finding out that there was an investigation into one of its former directors at a childcare centre, which was October of 2022, the communications manager in the church in Queensland at the time sent an email saying that a parent had inquired about getting money back, of getting fees refunded, of getting fees waived, and her question was, well, what are the insurance implications of that? And the church in Queensland's insurance advisor, its specialist, replied back that said it was a general requirement that the church does not admit liability. And this again goes to the issue of openness. How does the public find out about what's happening? How do we get the truth if there's this general requirement? And it wouldn't be unique to the church, it'd be insurance policies all over the place that require people just to not admit that you got it wrong.
The woman who gave evidence was the mother of the little girl who Ashley Griffith was observed to be kissing while she slept at the Uniting Church Centre back in 2021. Yolanda is the one who notified her about the incident, but this mum expressed how angry she was at Yolanda, working for the Uniting Church, who would not provide her with a copy of the internal investigation report due to, quote, privacy reasons. She told the court, all I got told was someone had kissed your daughter, and that's what I was left with, and trying to figure out how it could happen. She went on to say, we've been kept in the dark for 3 years on everything, and we've been told not to talk about it, and we've done that. She even explained that the Uniting Church continued charging her childcare fees whilst Griffith was stood down.
In an interesting turn of events as well this afternoon, we have learned that the media will be given unprecedented and rare access into the courtroom tomorrow to hear Judge Smith deliver that sentence and hand down his judgment and his verdict, which will happen tomorrow afternoon, Max. That is when this vile man, Ashley Paul Griffith, will learn his fate.